Hi, guys, welcome back to another episode of Going with the Flow. Today we have a very, very special guest who I was dying to have on the podcast because I don't know anything about Pinterest. So she is just going to be a total guru, and I'm just going to be a sponge during this episode, to be honest. But yes, Emma. So welcome, Emma. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Very, very excited to have you on. I'm sure you've got like so much. I know you've got so much experience and like knowledge, and yeah, expertise in the Pinterest sort of field, especially. So yeah, I'm super excited to just dive into all of the secrets behind a successful Pinterest strategy, and also a bit to learn a bit more about yourself as well and how you got started. Um, but yeah, so I'll sort of start off with like just letting you introduce yourself to the Flow community. Just about you and what you do and all that sort of lovely stuff.
I'm Emma. I'm the founder of Atlas Social Co. And I basically work primarily with entrepreneurs and small businesses, specifically on Pinterest. I do like a little bit of TikTok work just because I love TikTok, but primarily Pinterest. And I do like a mix of different things. So I'll do like account audits, monthly management, strategy work, consultations, anything really like that. But yeah, working primarily with Pinterest.
Amazing. So, I mean, I literally don't know anything about Pinterest. I'm just going to be totally honest. Like, I used it for flow because I remember actually, I think it was seeing your TikTok and after seeing one, and I was like, right, I need to get my Pinterest game up. Like, I'm just not on there. I need to get on there. So, I pretty much just did a few pins. Is that what it is? Or like,
Yeah,
a few like pictures on there of my templates, and
yeah.
then that was pretty much all I did, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I guess like what actually does make a successful Pinterest strategy. Actually, let's not go into that because I actually don't even know like how to start that. From a business perspective, how would you say like to get started on Pinterest? Like what would be like the first sort of steps to take to be on there and like grow like a presence on there?
Yeah. So, first of all, I always say just spend a little bit of time on Pinterest, in Pinterest, because I think most people actually don't have a great idea of how it works. And I see a lot of people jump on there because they think they should be on there. Like, say they see someone like me or someone else talk about Pinterest, they jump on there and they treat it like Instagram. Um, and they're two really separate accounts. Although they're both like very visual platforms, they are very different in the way that they work, and that's one of the biggest mistakes I see. So say first, just take some time on the Pinterest app so that you understand kind of how it works and what kind of content does well on there. And then the first thing that you're going to want to do is set up a Pinterest business account. It's completely free to set up, but it just gives you a little bit more information, a lot more analytics, and it's a lot of different things. A lot of the time, you will get access to things earlier if you're a business account. So that's the first thing that I'd start with. That's really, really easy to do. And then, oh, tricky where to start. I always like to struggle with this because I never want to overwhelm people. Um, but what I would recommend is doing research before you post anything. So, something that's really important on Pinterest are keywords. They're super, super important, and they're basically how um, Pinterest ranks your content. So, if you get your keyword research right, your content, your pins will rank really high in the search results. Um, so if you can do that research first, I know that sounds overwhelming. Like, what is keyword research? That sounds really scary. I don't know anything about that. It's not as scary as it sounds. And if you are able to do that before you create any pins, post any content, it's really going to pay off. A lot of the time, I see people just go straight in and they're really excited. They like create some content, post some pins, and without having done any research beforehand, and they just don't see the payoff of that hard work, which I always just think is such a shame. Like, I want people to, if they put hard work into creating something, I want them to get something out of it. So I would say start with your research beforehand.
Yeah. And I think that goes like not even just Pinterest as well, like a lot of social channels. I think people like even Instagram or TikTok, it's, oh, I've got this content, I'll just create it and put it out. But it's so difficult as well because I feel like this is when people are like, "Oh, like your job must be so easy because you just post on social media," and it's like, no, there's so much like strategy and research that
Yeah,
goes on behind the scenes that you just don't know about. Um, but yeah, I think doing that research and making sure like you know your audience, and obviously with Pinterest, that's about the keywords and that's what's relevant to that platform. So, um, that's really interesting to know because I did see like it was sort of SEO, is that the right? I
yeah,
mean, I literally don't even know
yeah.
it when it comes to
So
SEO.
I always say if you can try and think about Pinterest as like they call themselves a visual search engine. So a lot of people think about Pinterest like they would Instagram, but really it's much closer to Google or YouTube, because you have that search bar there, and that's how people primarily find your content. Um, so same with obviously Google, and you're going to get the thing as well is you're going to get the top results in Google, right? Like you don't get the most recent results. You get the things that Google thinks is going to be most helpful for that search phrase. And that's the same with Pinterest. So yeah, search engine optimization, SEO. It sounds really, again, really scary if you're not used to it, but it's actually not. Especially with Pinterest, it's not as intense as Google. And it's basically just all the little tweaks and things you can do to your content and your profile. To it really just lets Pinterest know exactly what you're about, what your content is about, so that it says, "Oh, I know what that pin is about. Therefore, I'm going to show it in the search results because I know exactly what it's about and who it's for, and I know that it's relevant."
Yeah, and I think it's great as well to have people like yourself because I personally, from my experience, like I've not come across anyone who specializes in Pinterest. Like there might be other people out there, but I think your content is so understandable and like especially like Pinterest because it is about like the keywords and stuff like that. Like to any like person who's starting out, their own small, I don't know, like candle business or whatever. I think it can be so overwhelming if someone's like throwing like loads of jargon at you and you just don't know. Whereas your content sort of breaks that down. And even for me, like I didn't really understand Pinterest that much, but after seeing your content, not only did it inspire me to think, right, I need to consider Pinterest, but also it just is nice to have like a friendly face to just break it down a little bit and not make it so like daunting to like go on the platform and test it out. Um but yeah, like I'm quite interested to know this, but like, is there any content that specifically performs well on there? Because I know, like, when I'm flicking through for like inspiration for content and stuff, there's like videos now, and then there's sort of like huge like infographics and stuff like that. Like, does it matter, or is it like more about the keywords and that sort of thing, or is it about the actual like look of your content, or is it just a mix of both?
Yeah, it's complicated. So, um, also because I think was it yesterday, a couple of days ago, definitely, Pinterest released this like brand new video and with a load of research that they'd done, all about video pins and video on Pinterest and how effective it is. Which either way, the fact that they've made that video says to me that they want people to use video. Um, so, and I mean, we've seen that across like all platforms, right? That we're moving towards video. So I'd always say if you're able to do that, then that's going to be really useful. But that being said, there are plenty of accounts that don't use video, that just use images, and they do really well. So it's not like an absolute must, and also it's going to depend on the niche. Like, um, for example, if you're in like the cooking recipe niche, if you're scrolling through Pinterest and there's just a load of like images of food with some text on them versus a video, that's going to immediately draw your eye to it. Like that's going to stand out immediately. And that's easier to do with that niche. But there are going to be other niches, like, I mean, the niche that we're in, more like entrepreneurial niches, things like that, where if your purpose with that pin is to link it over to some content, like link it over to a blog post, the video element isn't really going to work for that. Like that is going to it's going to be more useful to have a static image pin. And like I said, they can work really well. I'm always really recommend focusing on your copy on your pin. So the words that you're using, I find that that is hugely underutilized and it makes the biggest difference. So that's one thing that I would always recommend. Yeah, and oh, you mentioned infographics as well. They can perform really well, especially because often they're longer, which again, if you're scrolling through your phone, it takes up a lot more of the screen. The only thing I would say with infographics is that if you are using Pinterest to try and push traffic out, an infographic is unlikely to do that because they've already got all that information right there, right? They don't need to go click out to your website to go find out more. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd say with that.
Yeah, that's really interesting actually, because I never even thought about that. Like in terms of a sales and, traffic perspective, like I just never would even have like thought of that. So that's really interesting to know actually. And another thing, sorry, this is me literally just
No,
trying to get
go
as
for
much
it.
information on Pinterest. I just thought like obviously it is about curating like boards and that whole visual feed. So
Mhm.
like how often should you be creating a board? I'm not very clued up on the lingo, you can tell here. But like or like pinning, or like how often basically should you be like posting content on there?
So I would recommend posting every day if you can.
Hmm.
Um, and the thing, I know that sounds kind of intense, but you can post, for example, the reason I got into Pinterest was because I had a blog.
Hmm.
And for that blog, let's say I had this one blog post and I could make like 5 pins for that one blog post. And Pinterest really likes something called fresh pins, which basically just new images they haven't seen before. So I'd make this blog post with some like text on it, and all I did for that pin was to change like the colors and the font, and that's all I did. And so I then had 5 pins that really only took me the time to make one pin. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but then 3 of those pins are now ranking in the search results. And for that blog now, I haven't posted a pin for like almost a year, maybe. Um, and that Pinterest account's still doing really good. I think it's on like 3 million monthly views at the moment. So
Ye-
when you're starting out, that I would recommend, posting regularly.
mhm,
Um, but you'll find that if you have like put the proper strategy and keywords in, that those pins, once they're ranking in the search results, they'll stay there for like ages, months, years,
mhm,
and you will continue to get traffic from those for like a year afterwards. And then you
mhm,
can kind of, it doesn't matter, you can take a little bit of time off because someone's
mhm,
still driving traffic on like just automatically.
mhm,
And then in terms of boards, I would say when you first start your Pinterest account, I'd say try to make about like 5 boards um, that are really focused in on your niche. And then just obviously try to post them regularly. I don't feel the need to create new boards. Like if you just stuck with those 5 boards forever, that would be absolutely fine as long as your
mhm.
content fitted within those boards. I would only recommend making new boards when you find you have content that doesn't apply to any of the boards that you already have.
Yeah.
Um, because boards, they're kind of like a two-pronged thing. Like if you're just using Pinterest as a regular person, like not
Mhm,
for marketing purposes, they help you to group everything together, right? Like if I'm planning my wedding, I can put everything in one board and it's really helpful for me.
mhm,
But in terms of a marketing perspective, boards are really helpful because they're one of those SEO things that tell Pinterest what those pins are about. So if you have a board, let's say about a wedding board, all about weddings, you have that in the title and then you have a load of keywords in the description. Once you pin a pin into that board, that just gives Pinterest more information as to what that pin is about. So yeah.
mhm. Ah, okay. I didn't know that either. I mean, I'm literally just learning so much here. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it stays on there. So it is, as you say, like worth putting in that work. Which is quite different, really, to any other social platform because, I mean, TikTok stays on for. I mean, it doesn't have a long shelf life really when is in perspective when you look at it and compare it to Pinterest. But
Yeah.
I'd say probably a little bit more than Instagram. But I guess Instagram's weird because I know it's not in terms of people seeing the content, but then you can obviously go on and like stalk someone. But aside from that, you wouldn't really ever, have access to
Yeah.
someone's post if it's a year old. So yeah, it is really like it is a great platform specifically for businesses. Like after hearing what you just said about putting the work in and having that piece of content there, it's going to last like it's going to have a huge shelf life. So it is worth like putting the extra hours in to make, to do all the keywords and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting like to hear that, why you started with your blog. And yeah, I'd be interested to hear like more about that, and like how and like why did you decide to go out on your own and start Atlas Social, and how did that actually come about? And like prior to that, sorry, I'm throwing loads of questions at you. But prior to that, did you sort of have like any education in like marketing, or did you like do any courses or like anything like that?
Yeah. So I actually originally went to university to study law, which I dropped out after a year. I hated it. I think it was one of those things that I'd always like done well in school. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I thought like law is like a worthy thing to do. Like people will be like, now looking back, I can see in myself that I was like, people will be impressed if I do law, which is a bit pathetic, but I hated it. I dropped out after a year and then studied English. I absolutely loved English, and I actually would have happily have carried on and done a master's in English, but I couldn't afford to because you only get 4 years of like student finance in the UK, and I'd already used that on my year of law. So at the time I was like, oh, that's really upsetting to me because I loved English so much and I would have happily gone into academia. But now looking back, I'm like, okay, that was actually a good thing because I would never have gone into what I'm doing now. Um, and yeah, so I started my blog like I think when I first started university, and it kind of evolved into like more of a travel based blog. And I was creating content and I just couldn't get anyone's eyes on it. Like I was finding it so difficult. I didn't understand how anyone got traffic. And then I don't know, honestly know how I found out about Pinterest. I was obviously on it already. I don't know if maybe I saw a pin about blogging or something. Um, and then I started to realize that people using Pinterest to drive traffic to their blog. And then I just kind of like went into like ultimate research mode, and I just completely fell in love with it and became kind of obsessed with it. And I've always been really into like social media in general. Funny story. I feel like I always like I feel like one of those annoying girls that's like I discovered this band before everyone else. But like, I feel like I discover these things early just because I'm so interested in them. But I accidentally discovered TikTok in I think it must have been 2018. And I'm so annoyed at myself because I used it. I was just looking for like a video editing app. So I just used it as a video editing app and then put the video on Instagram. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, why didn't I just post a TikTok from 2018? Um,
Living Alison Ray, for God's sake.
I know, but hey ho, never mind. I've completely lost my train of thought. So I kind of knew I wanted to work in social media. Um, and I have a bit of a different story because I feel like most people um, go into a corporate job and then leave to go freelance. And I was never in a corporate job. So I had to move home from uni my final year to care for my mum. She was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. Then she passed away. And then I had to, well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to help my dad because him and my mum had their own business. And so I was helping him a lot out with various different things, really just taking on everything, which was really useful because I got a good idea of how a whole business works. And then after that, it was kind of like crunch time. Like, do I go get a regular corporate job or do I try and do something on my own? And I'd done a little bit of like freelancing social media work, mostly Instagram, just like on the side up until this point. And I, it's really interesting because I thought to myself, how am I going to set myself apart from everyone else? Because there are a lot of, like Instagram managers, which is great. There's a lot of Instagram accounts that's, they're a necessity. Um, but I was obviously particularly interested in Pinterest. I really loved Pinterest and I wasn't seeing anyone talk about it. So I kind of positioned myself towards Pinterest as like a marketing tool almost, knowing that there weren't people talking about it and how useful it was, and that I could really provide value like in that sense. Um, so that's kind of how I got into it, and I'd obviously seen how powerful it could be for traffic, and I was just like, why aren't businesses using this? Like, why are we spending so much time on, and I love Instagram, I love TikTok, on these things that ultimately keep people within the platform, whereas Pinterest literally it was created to send people back out of the platform towards your website or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of like how I got into it.
Yeah, I mean, that is like I guess as you said, like a lot of people go into a corporate role and then gain a bit of experience and then go out on their own. So it's really inspiring to hear actually that you just, went for it and like you didn't need that experience because a lot of people, especially on Flow as well, like I get a lot of messages that are like, oh, sort of want to go out freelance or I'm debating like freelance or start my own business or do I get like a corporate job? And it is difficult because I guess it does depend on the person, but I think a lot of the time people don't have the confidence or think, they need to have that like job before jumping straight in. But I think you've proven and, other people out there that you can just jump straight in.
Yeah,
And as long as, you're passionate and you just keep going and you're confident in what you're doing and skilled, then there's no reason that you can't be a success as proven by yourself.
yeah,
So yeah, I think that's really inspiring. And yeah, it's interesting that obviously you found that niche in Pinterest as well because you do like obviously the social media marketing like world is vast and it's quite saturated in the fact of like there's a lot of like social media gurus out there, but I think it definitely sets you apart from the rest. I mean, even myself from like looking at your TikTok, like I don't think there's anyone. I mean, there might be. You probably will know this more than me, but I personally haven't seen anyone else on TikTok that hones in on Pinterest. So yeah, it's great to have that, and I think it's definitely like a necessity for small businesses or anyone in general looking to be on that platform. Um, and even for like people like myself who just want to, I mean, I might not necessarily like need or like want to go on there, but it is just great to have like a general overview of it. Um, but yeah, do you think like in terms of like the Pinterest sort of status at the minute and where it's at, do you think like more people should be going on there? And do you think like there's going to be scope for it to grow even further? And because obviously I know at the minute it is very much like TikTok, and like, Instagram as well. But
mhm,
do you think like people are missing out on there and like should be on there if they are? Like what types of people do you think should be on Pinterest? Sorry,
yeah.
I'm throwing like three questions at a
No,
time all the
so
time.
I feel like my answers keep being really long-winded because I'm trying to remember everything. But yes, so I think there's been a lot of changes with Pinterest over the
Mhm,
past year or two. And I think it's a really good place to be because a lot of people don't recognize it. And
mhm,
whenever there's somewhere that people are not don't maybe realize how powerful it can be, there's going to be more space for you because there's less
mhm,
people to compete with. Um, so, for example, idea pins are like a massive thing now, and they are kind of similar to like Reels or TikToks, a little bit different, but they're a massive opportunity for creators. Like I'm seeing creators who are very small on other platforms, on Instagram, on TikTok, who really don't have a large following at all, who have then gone onto Pinterest and are doing like brand deals with brands like Nasty Gal, like really huge brands, and have found a really great audience there.
mhm,
I think it's a great opportunity for them. They make affiliate marketing easy there as well. I'd say any kind of product based business is they're making huge changes to make it super friendly for them, and you're
mhm,
starting to see a lot of bigger brands now taking Pinterest more seriously, um,
mhm,
which is great. And you know what? The other thing about Pinterest is that I think I can't remember I always kick myself because I can never remember the numbers on anything, but a huge percent, like the vast majority of searches are not branded searches. So if you are a small business and you are, putting your keywords correctly and you've honed your strategy, you can outperform big brands
mhm,
in organic Pinterest marketing, and you will show up in the search results. And that's a really, that can be really powerful. So those two are really great. And then obviously, more kind of like the entrepreneurial niches. There are so many niches that do really well. I mean, it's easy to say like this niche does really well on Pinterest, this niche does, but then I see someone who's just really random and
yeah.
they're killing it. Like there's this one woman who does wreath making. That is her full niche. Like she just makes wreaths, and she is absolutely killing it. Like she's got this massive business, all from like Pinterest pushing her wreath making. So, um,
Oh.
it's like a surprising amount of different things that work well on there.
Yeah, I think that is like as well. Like I think it's so difficult because obviously there is certain like steps to take to make to ensure like you find success on platforms and stuff. But I do think sometimes it is just genuinely like random and like a bit of luck. Like for example, that Francis the train guy on TikTok. Like how random is that? Like niche for someone to be like train spotting and then
Yeah.
just absolutely blow up to being Gucci like adverts. Like what? Like it actually like blows my mind. So
Mm.
yeah, I think although like there's definitely obviously like a strategy behind, 9 out of 10 times, sometimes it is just completely random.
Yeah. And also, even if there is strategy, I feel like there's always a little bit of luck. Like, I feel like in my own, I've managed to grow like a following on TikTok. And like we were saying at the beginning, I took time before I made TikToks to understand TikTok and like plan out what I was going to do. So I had a strategy, but I don't know, I find it like a little bit arrogant to think that it's all me. Like it's just all me. I think there's always going to be like a little bit of luck, right? That video found the right person, and yeah. So
I agree because I wish I had like a huge strategy with my TikTok, but if I'm completely honest, like, well, when I was starting out, because I had no intentions of like Flow ever becoming what it is now. Um, and I didn't like in terms of like the portfolio side of things, like it wasn't even meant to be that. So when I posted that TikTok that went viral about my portfolio, I was like, like there wasn't any like strategy behind that. I'll be completely honest, like there just wasn't. So yeah, I think, sometimes it does take that one sort of strike of luck, but then to maintain the presence after that, like yes, you can get a viral video, but it just after a couple of days, everyone on TikTok just forgets about it and it's the next one. So I think, yeah, I think it does sort of it is a combination of luck and being like having the right sound or like being in the right place at the right time, but then obviously pairing that with like, okay, what are the next steps? I need to maintain this growth. Um, but yeah, I'm curious to hear like your perspective on TikTok because obviously I know that's where I found you, and I like seeing all your videos and stuff because I'm literally on there. Why can't I say that word? Religiously. And I mean, yeah, it's a bit too addictive. I'm not gonna lie. Like sometimes I will be up till like 2 o'clock in the morning just on TikTok. But yeah, like, do you like wanna do you aspire to keep building your platform on TikTok, and do you see yourself maybe venturing into? Because obviously I know your primary like service offering at the minute with Atlas is Pinterest, but do you see TikTok as a platform that is going to continue to grow?
yeah, 100%. And I'd like to start doing more work. I do a little bit of work with TikTok, but I'd like to start doing more because it is just I love it. I think it's so fun. Um, yeah, I think TikTok is like not going to stop anytime soon. um, and I mean, they just announced right that they're like releasing 10-minute videos, which I I'm like, oh my gosh, they came for Instagram, they're coming for YouTube, like they're doing it all. So I feel like they're obviously, and also I keep seeing they've obviously like TikTok, what's it called, like the shopping vibe, like it's like basically like a shopping channel now. They're very much like on the pulse, like trying to diversify. So I don't see it going away anytime soon. The only thing that I think is an issue is that they don't pay their creators as well as YouTube, for example. Like I can't. I think they'll struggle to get people to put in the because that's a huge amount of effort. A 10-minute video that is good enough to keep people watching for that long on an app that people are used to just scrolling through. That's a lot of effort, and to do that for very little, monetary reward when they could post that video to YouTube. That's I think they're going to struggle with that. But that being said, it's also an opportunity because a lot of people won't do that. A lot of people will say, well, I can already make that money on YouTube. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to bother on TikTok. And there will be people with smaller platforms who will put in the effort to do that and will get rewarded for it. Because it's like with any platform, right? When there's a new feature, they've spent so much time and money creating that feature. So they need it to work. It's the same with Reels, idea pins. They really need that feature to work. So they will like reward you for using that feature. They will give you more views, etc. Um, to make that worthwhile. They can't have that be a flop, you know. So some people who do put in that effort will probably see, if not a like monetary reward, at least you know, an increase in views, followers, etc., which could give them a platform for obviously more monetary in future. But I'm very interested to see how that will play out.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued because I put a LinkedIn post actually on because I've received the like update where it's like you can post up to 10-minute videos now, and I was like, what? Like, I just at first I just couldn't see it. Like, it just didn't, because TikTok's so well, it's short form videos, isn't it? You're
Yeah,
constantly scrolling, so to retain someone's attention for 10 minutes, it just doesn't feel. I mean, I guess that is like, as you said, like with any change on a platform, it is always like at the start, everyone's like, no, that's not going to work.
yeah,
And then it does sort of like either just flop or, people just, cotton onto it. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I am interested as well to see how it plays out. And especially for creators, as you say, I don't know. It's enough effort having to show up every day and film a TikTok every day, never mind a 10-minute video. And I think it's the thing as well, like a lot of social media marketers and stuff say you shouldn't just put all your eggs in one basket. So I think a lot of people try to drive traffic from TikTok because it is so, great at getting that organic growth, but they drive them to the YouTube channel or
mm,
to Instagram. So I think, yeah, I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see what creators do with it and if they do 10-minute videos or if they're just going to still continue to be like, here's, some TikToks and then obviously drive them to YouTube. But I don't know.
yeah.
I will be interested to see how it does come about.
Cool.
But yeah, so I'm just looking at my questions because I forgot where I'm going.
No, you're all good.
um duh, duh, duh. Yeah, so I was just sort of obviously with your journey and like starting your business and stuff, that is, a huge step in itself to go self-employed and to go solo. So I'm just interested to hear like where did that passion come from, and especially like how do you stay motivated to, get up and have that routine and, make sure that you're on top of things with clients, and do you have like any sort of advice or like piece like tips for anyone who is starting out on the like self-employed journey?
Yeah. Um, I'd say this is something that probably isn't going to come straight away, but it's something that I've been learning recently, and that is that I really enjoy certain services over other ones that I provide, and to focus more on those services and marketing those services. Because when I am doing a service that I don't love as much, um, that's when I really struggle to motivate myself to do the work. Like, I will put it off. I will try and do literally anything else that I have to do instead of doing that work. Um, and so, you know, I created my business to do something that I enjoy, and that is, I'm always trying to keep that as my focus. And at the beginning, you know, you're taking what you can get, right? You're like, just give me something because I need to make some money. Um, but as you move on and progress, you can start to be a little bit more picky with the kind of work you're doing, but also who you're working with. And I've actually been pretty picky on that from the beginning, especially with management, because I have, the other thing with Pinterest is that regular pins take a long time to rank in search results, just like in Google. You know, like you wouldn't just post something one day and expect it to rank the next day on Google. So I have, my Pinterest packages are 6 months minimum. So I know I'm going to be working with this person for a long time. So I'm really picky with who I work with. And if I get a bad vibe, I'm like, no, it doesn't matter how much money it is. It's not worth it to me because I want to enjoy the work. Um, Also, I think I'm lucky in a way that I've always been fairly self motivated. Um, but I will say that when I am having a day where I'm not feeling it, I just don't do it. um, and especially, obviously, I lost my mum. Some days are just like hard. They're hard days. I'm like grieving and finding it difficult. And loads of people have that in different ways, like with like mental health, physical health, whatever. Um, and I just like give myself grace and say, today's not the day. I'm not going to get my best work done today. And I won't do the work that day. And at first I struggled with that, but I think that being gentle with myself on that has been really helpful. I also have been really lucky to meet people online who are in a similar space to me. Actually, you mentioned that you hadn't seen anyone doing Pinterest stuff. One of my, I'll give her a little shout out because I really love her work and I believe in like supporting other people. So she's called Happily Ever Social, and she also does a lot of Pinterest content, a lot of Pinterest work. And I feel really lucky to have met her because I can speak to her about stuff and I don't feel so alone in it. Like when you're starting your own business, it is so lonely and you have no idea what you're doing. Like I would watch TikTok videos of people who were, you know, in a similar situation to me, but maybe for a bit longer. And they just looked like they had it all together. Like they knew exactly what they were doing. I had no clue. I didn't know anything. And if you're listening to this now and that's you, it's okay. Like it's okay not to have a clue. Like I remember doing my first everything and being like, am I doing this right? Like when you're first pricing yourself, when you are sending invoices, like putting together reports, literally everything. You're like, I've got no idea if I'm doing this right. But just like trusting that you can learn as you go and that also that you're able to do things in your own way. Like it's your business and you get to decide how things are done. But yeah, so talking to her has been really helpful and trying to find like some kind of community. And because it's really easy, like I said, to look at all these other people and think they know exactly what they're doing. And then you talk to someone else and you're like, oh, no, they don't. Like we're all just making it up as we go along and that's fine.
But I literally like my first job role, I was so like timid and shy, and I like at this point, flow wasn't like anything at the minute. And I just used to look at other people and think, wow, like as you said, like they have everything together, they know exactly what they want to do. Um, and it was only up until like recently when I've got like a new job and like spoken to like more people in the industry, like everyone is just winging it to a certain degree. Like even people like who are extremely successful in business. Like I was listening to Ben Francis, the founder of Gymshark, and like his experience, and he was like people like you're not going to know everything starting out, especially if you are, you know, starting your own business, because there's so much to learn and to do. And I was the exact same. Like I didn't have a clue, and I think it's especially difficult. Like I had my mum who set up self-employed, I think like a while back for a couple of years, and then that was it. So she knew like a little bit about like even like the whole tax side of things. Like that is just I didn't literally have a clue. Like I was literally googling like, is this right? Like how do I do like self-assessment? Like, I don't know. And you know, if you're starting out, how are you gonna know? Like you're not gonna. So yeah, I think it can be intimidating, as you say, and I think it's easy to fall into that, like, oh, you know, comparing yourself to someone else and thinking they have it together, but everyone's been through the same thing. And yeah, it's definitely like don't feel stupid for anyone listening as well. Like, don't feel stupid for asking silly questions because they're not silly. Like, everyone needs to find it out at some point. Um,
And also with that, I always say like I always like to think like confidence isn't knowing everything. It's like trusting in your ability to find out and like work it out, and like trusting yourself on that. I think that's something you learn as you carry on.
Yeah, yeah. And the loneliness factor as well, I think that is I've heard a lot of people say this, and because I started Flow, so I quit my full-time job to just pursue Flow. And it just I'm gonna be honest, I haven't actually come out and said this, but like it just wasn't for me at that time. Like I think in a couple of years when I've built, you know, a bit more, I know what I'm doing and I've got more of a structure, then maybe I'd do Flow full time. But I just sort of jumped into it, and I just remember thinking, "This is so overwhelming. I feel so lonely. I've got no one to speak to." Um, and yeah, it just wasn't for me. Like, especially going from like a 9 to 5 and having like a team of people, and like I had like a lot of people at work that I spoke to every day. Going from that to like suddenly, right, I've got to get up myself. I've got to find my own routine. I've got to actually like do this without having like any interaction. I'm just sat in my bedroom. I think it can be incredibly lonely, and I think, you know, from what you said about having like people there, like-minded people in the industry or like similar to what you're doing, it's so key. Like you need to have other people there to just be like a bit of a support. Not even a support, just like a connection to have a little bit of a chat. Like, how are you? Like, how's it going? Like, because yeah, I definitely found it was lonely, and I now work part time alongside doing it, so it's not as bad. So I'm sort of like growing Flow alongside, but um, yeah, I think the one thing about Flow is that it's great to have a community. I can imagine this is like similar to yours, but even like customers and just students who message me and they're like, oh, your pages inspired me, or they just want to have a bit of a chat about like, oh, I'm in this place at the minute. And it's nice to have that interaction as well. And I think that's what's helped me sort of keep going with flow. But yeah, I think it can be incredibly lonely. And as you say, like it is important to make sure that you do speak to people. Um, but yeah, in terms of being self-employed then, do you think there's any, like, key skills or, like, mistakes that you've made or things that you just really think to anyone aspiring to start their own business, like, make sure, you know this or avoid it or anything like that?
Um, do you know what? I think that, well, first of all, I want to say about what you were saying, is that it doesn't, if you don't enjoy it, it doesn't have to be for you. You don't have
Mhm,
to force yourself to do something. And maybe
mhm,
you do just want to make it more of like a part-time thing. And that doesn't make,
mhm.
I feel like we really glorify starting your own business and going all in on it. And there's nothing wrong with if that's not for you and you want to like also work part-time or even full-time and have this as a side thing, like there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
Sorry, I've got completely sidetracked.
No,
I
it's
also
okay.
I also think that most people have, we're all so like, we all have such different skills, and most
Mhm,
people will have skills that are going to help them
mhm,
in freelance work, starting their own business. And there are skills that I have that have definitely helped me,
mhm,
and there are ones that I definitely don't have. I'd say that what's always going to be most important is that you are, I feel like passionate is such a buzzword, but that you are passionate about what you're doing.
mhm.
Because if you're not, there's no one making you do it. Like there's no, you haven't
Yeah.
got a boss, you haven't got anyone that's like scaring you into doing it. It's really got to be like from yourself. You're doing the work, and there's no one's going to do it for you, and no one's going to make you do the work. So
Mhm,
there has to be like that base level there of interest and passion in what you're doing. Um, but yeah, I think I struggle with like that question a little bit, to know exactly what skills. But what about in terms of like my failings? I've got many a failing. I think pricing is really difficult, and I think most people struggle with that when they
yeah.
first go into freelance work. And
Mhm,
I honestly kind of wish that I had booked some kind of like consultation with someone who does like social media management coaching or something like that, just to get like a legitimate idea of where I should be pricing myself, because
mhm,
that is something that has taken me a little bit of time. And I've underpriced myself for a long time, which isn't great. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that.
mhm,
I'd also say I am a naturally quite shy person. I
mhm,
always have been. And so asserting myself can be difficult with
mhm,
clients. But ultimately, like I'm the like Pinterest expert that they have hired, right? They've hired me for my
mhm,
Pinterest knowledge. And so sometimes I have to be quite straightforward with
mhm,
what isn't going to work and what is. And at the beginning, I really struggled with that. And I just really wanted to make the client happy
mhm.
and do whatever they wanted to do. But ultimately, that wasn't going to get them the results that they wanted to get. So I really
Yeah.
had to kind of learn my way around being a little bit more assertive.
Mhm.
Yeah. And also, people will take you for as much as they can. Like,
Yes.
people will, I remember I do these power hour consultations, and they are like just really for very specific questions that you're struggling with Pinterest. And separately, I will do like audits and strategies, which take a lot more time. I put in a lot of work there. Um, but people were treating my power hours like they were audits or strategies, even though they were obviously significantly less money. So I've
Mhm,
had to start being quite strict with that, which I struggled with.
mhm.
So yeah, being assertive, I think, has been a big hill for me to climb.
Yeah. No, that's I am honestly the same. Like I'm a really shy person and kind of like too nice. Like it's so difficult because this is actually a struggle that I found with flow. Like I get loads of messages from students and graduates like, "Oh, I'm doing this project and I need like help." And this whole time, like now, like I literally send voice notes, like literally helping people, which I don't mind because obviously, my purpose is to help people and I provide advice. But I was speaking to my friend the other day and she was like, Yaz, like this is a business now, and like you're actually like going to be providing services and courses like in the future and stuff. So there's a level of like giving free advice, but then actually like time is money at the end of the day. And I know it's like horrible, but spending that, like, honestly, like if I added up all of the time that I spent like actually sending these voice notes to people, no disrespect, because I've done the exact same. Like I reached out to creators that I love and be like, can you give me advice? But I think it's striking the balance of, giving someone like a little bit of advice, but then not giving them, 4 voice notes that's going to tell them how to perfect a portfolio, because it's just it it's my time at the end of the day. And I think it's difficult for someone on the other side to understand that, and I think it's difficult for me to not feel bad about it. But like, you have got to say to yourself, I don't owe anyone anything. Like, this is my channel, and it is like not arrogant, but like as harsh as that sounds, it is true. And yeah, I think so kind of like processing that in your head is difficult. And I'm like the same. Like I'm too nice and I feel bad, and I'm very much still trying to like combat that myself, because I just do feel bad, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to like let anyone down, and I want to do the right thing. But yeah, I think as like you've got to have a business head sometimes and
Mm,
just think, right, this is not efficient for me.
yeah.
Um, so
And
yeah, it's
sorry.
no, no, it's
And
okay.
also with that is because I struggled with that as well. But I think
Mhm,
something that really helped me with that was that I am charging someone else for that service. Like I'm charging for power hours and people are paying me to ask me these questions and for me to take the time to talk to them about it. And that doesn't mean that I still answer DMs and I will still like give people advice, but to give people a really, big chunk of my time, I actually think that's not fair on the people that are paying for my time if I'm just giving it out for free. I feel like that helped me a little bit with that, like that mindset switch.
yeah, I think, yeah, I need to remind myself of that, because like I've literally sat through someone's sort of assignment and helped them, and then just looking back now, because obviously it is difficult when you're starting out, because you don't really know what you're doing, and you don't know that's you don't really know, I
Yeah,
guess, like the structure and stuff. So I just presumed, I'm just helping people. That's what my channel's all about. But looking back now, I just think, oh yeah, like you can't be doing that. It's literally like an hour out of your time to
yeah,
understand someone's project and then to give your expertise. And I think it's easy as well to think, I'm only 22, no one's going to listen to me for marketing advice. But then it's like, no, like you've grown a platform, you are skilled in this area, you know your worth, and like you should be charging people, like ultimately, like, and I think you can fall into that trap of like, oh, I'm charging like too much or whatever, especially for freelance if you're starting out. But yeah, I think it's about knowing your worth and having those conversations with people that have been in the industry, because it definitely opens your eyes a little bit, that maybe you are charging too little or doing too much for free. um but yeah, thank you so much. I am going to wrap up soon because I don't want to
no
take too
worries.
much of your time,
No
because I know
worries.
you're
I'm loving it.
busy. But yeah, I tend to end the podcast with like a question, about like your goals and sort of what you aim to achieve, and like just like on a personal level, and also like with your business with Atlas Social. So yeah, do you have like any goals in mind for this year? Because I know it's still like quite early into
Yeah.
2022. So.
So I'm actually this month, I think I'm hoping and praying that at the end of this month I'm releasing my Pinterest course, which I'm really excited about. And um, it's something I put off for a really long time, and I kept getting
Mhm.
people asking for it. And yeah, I'm really excited for making it. I know that there's a lot of different opinions on courses in the online space. And I think that kind of put me off a little bit, like caring too much what other people thought about that.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I know that what I'm creating in that is really like helpful and valuable, because I love creating TikToks. I love it so much,
Mhm.
but I can't answer every single question
Yeah.
and in like a 30-second video, and
Mhm.
I can't give like a really cohesive look at a Pinterest strategy in a 30-second video. And I just worry, I guess, sometimes that people are trying to piece together all these tiny little pieces, and
Mhm.
that can be difficult to do. So I'm really excited to be doing that this month. And then I'm pretty open to see where the rest of the year takes me. I'm actually moved in like personal life. I'm moving to Manchester, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
exciting. Where are you currently like based?
I'm currently in the West Midlands, Stratford upon Avon to be exact. And I was in London like for university and everything. So yeah, I'm really excited to be moving up to Manchester. So that feels like a big life switch. I'm getting married next year, so I've got a lot of planning to do. It feels like a lot of big life changes, but it's very exciting. And I'm trying to not get ahead of myself with Atlas and focus on one thing at a time. So right now I'm focusing on the course because I feel like I get really easily overwhelmed. So I'm trying to give myself like a little bit of grace and just take it one step at a time. So yeah,
Yeah, I think that is the best way to go about it as well, because I think that's partly why when I first started Flow, like, I had all of these ideas. Like, I'm going to do courses, I'm going to do like webinars, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, right, I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, I think taking it one step at a time is a great way to, to go about things, because yeah, if you just take it step by step, then that is, the best sort of method
yeah.
to achieve like anything. But yeah, thank you so much, Emma, for coming on. Like, really, really appreciate it, and I know the Flow community is going to take so much away from you. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad. So yeah, guys, if you don't already follow Emma Atlas Social, then please go do. I will link her all of her social arts and website and everything on this podcast, and also on the social posts that I'm doing. So yeah, be sure to follow her. She is an incredible resource to go to learn about social, and particularly obviously Pinterest. So yeah, be sure to follow her. And yeah, obviously keep an eye out for the course as well. I'm super excited to hear more about that, because that
Yeah.
just sounds really interesting. But yeah, thank you so much again, and I will speak to you all on the next episode.